Invest in daughters, sisters, and wives. They're gonna change our lives. In women, in girls. They'll make a better world. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. And now here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. As we know, every week we talk about how do we empower women entrepreneurs. And today we're going to talk to Dr. Melina Jampolis, who is an entrepreneur. She's a doctor, a speaker, an author, and loves to work on helping entrepreneurs to empower themselves through health and wellness. Hi, Dr. Molina. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, we were just talking about that you were actually born on the East Coast, right?
Midwest, yeah, Chicago.
Midwest,
I'm from Chicago.
Okay. And have traveled a lot of your life. You mentioned France and Boston and all these various cities that you've lived in. I think you named at least 8 of them.
Yeah.
Do you think that's impacted your life's work about why you want to help people through wellness? I mean, I know you're an expert on CNN. You've been on the Today Show. You've been on the doctors. Like, you are like the go-to lady for helping people to empower themselves through health and wellness. Let's talk about why that's always been your mission. What was your background that brought you into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think the moving around, just to answer that one first, I'm not sure that it impacted my journey as a career, but it certainly built resilience. And that's something that I think, having to move so much as a child, I had to adapt and really learn to, get into a situation and feel comfortable with new people, new surroundings. And so I think that served me well in many ways. And growing up in France, I did develop an understanding and passion for, healthier foods, minimally processed. So I think that was part of the journey. But I actually started out, so I'm an internist by training. I was originally board certified in internal medicine. But after practicing, so 7 years of training, practicing for 6 months, I quickly became very disillusioned with the practice of medicine and felt like I was spending all my days making the pharmaceutical companies a lot of money, putting patients on medications for diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol, when I could really more profoundly influence their health and wellness through diet and weight loss if it was required. So I had kind of an aha moment when I was 29 years old, where I got a job at a weight loss clinic and realized how much I could impact people's lives. And I had a little departure from medicine and worked for a startup medical device company, but being just full on in the business world as a doctor wasn't gratifying for me. I really missed the patient experience. And so I decided to focus away from internal medicine and transition into nutrition. And at that time, this was, back in the early 2000s, there was no training for physicians. There still isn't, which is, atrocious to me. But so I embarked on this journey of self-teaching, reading textbooks, going to conferences, and building my clinical practice and experience around nutrition and weight management to some extent. And that's where, and then the floodgates opened. And I think when you're on a path that you're passionate about, opportunities come to you. And so then the television came, and the CNN and the books, but those are all part of my primary journey, is still the passion for nutrition and preventive medicine. And that's what drives me every day.
Yeah. When I met you, I was just so impressed with just how excited you are about what you talk about. You live, eat, and breathe it. Well, maybe not eat, but live and eat, live and breathe. But because I know you watch what you eat, right? But
well, not as much as people would think, though. That's
really,
that's something we can. Yeah, people. And you know what? There's so many like pseudo experts out there, like in nutrition more than any other field of medicine. And when I see these people like on social media saying what they eat in a day, I'm like, there is no way. Seriously. I like sugar. I eat gluten. I drink wine, not always just a glass. I mean, yes, of course, I pay attention, but I'm real, I really, and I'm using the science to guide me, but also the practicality of what I do. And I'm not a foodie, but I am a wino. I'm not gonna lie, and having practiced medicine in San Francisco, a lot of my patients were prominent winemakers. So I was always, open about wanting to do barter if the situation arose. So
No, I love that you are talking in practical terms, because most of these are such deprivation type of thinking that I love that here you are, focused on helping people with health and prevention and weight loss, and yet you're not talking deprivation. So that's really encouraging. I'm sure people are gonna get your book. I know your fifth one you said is your favorite. It's called Spice Up and Live Long. Who doesn't want that book? And you also shared with me you have a podcast coming out. So I'm super excited about that. I know I'm going to want to tune in. It's called Practically Healthy. I love that. What is that going to be about?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the podcast first, and then I want to tell you a little bit about the book too, because it's really been a labor of love. But the podcast, Practically Healthy, it's a double entendre, right? So I wanted it to be practical because I'm all about giving people things that they really can do. Because if you just so many of these deprivation diets and super extreme where you're cutting every major food group, like you may be able to stick with it for a little bit, but long term you're not going to. So I think most of these recommendations by the pseudo experts are really not practical. So what I want to do in the podcast is really bring practical advice. And also, I'm not perfect. And so maybe I'm not fully healthy in everything that I do, but I'm practically there. And I feel like if you do more good than not so good, you can be there too. And I really, as I move forward, I mean, I'm going to have a lot of, my friends that I've met through the media, like Randy Jackson's going to come on, my friend Brandy Chastain, who is the World Cup soccer player, Olympian, that, I'm going to talk to them about how they're practically healthy. But I'm also going to bring on experts that maybe I don't completely agree with, or maybe I just think their suggestions aren't really that practical. And I'm going to push them a little bit, because I can do that. I'm just as much of an expert, if not more so, than them. And I want to get them to, kind of maybe get off their high horse a little bit and their academic, elitism. And let's talk real. Let's talk holidays. Let's talk what you really do. What I do as a busy mom of two boys. I am not sitting in the morning and like meditating and making a homemade breakfast. And I'm running out the door with a protein bar, yelling at my kids to go to school on time. And, I don't have this. So I really want to get real with the podcast because I think there is, unfortunately, there's been just an explosion of not real experts and not real, and social media has facilitated, I believe, like the wrong messages. If a celebrity likes a doctor, that doctor becomes a celebrity and then everybody wants to do what they say.
Mhm.
That's not how it works. Those aren't the people that really you should be listening to. I mean, no disrespect to Gwyneth Paltrow, but our lives are not like her life,
Right.
so we and I, even though I'm a nutrition doctor and I have I love staying fit, but there's things that I do. I have a Trader Joe's shopping list that I do for patients because I'm not a great cook. That's the dirty little secret that I have too. So, you know, that's what the podcast is about. And just to segue briefly to the book, because, I'm always looking for low hanging fruit, like in terms of optimizing your health for less effort. And herbs and spices are such a powerful way to do that. And you don't have to be a gourmet cook, trust me, because I'm not. So,
I'm so
just
glad to hear that.
but
Me
just
neither.
throwing cinnamon into your coffee, getting a box of butternut squash soup and adding some herbs and spices to it to amplify the health benefits, because we know herbs and spices are such powerful anti-inflammatories and antioxidants, and some of them may help with belly fat reduction, and some of them may help with cancer prevention or Alzheimer's or diabetes. So that's what the book is about. It's really about, not just extending your lifespan, but extending your health span. And I think, that's something that probably busy entrepreneurs, you get caught startup, whatever phase of your business is in. I know when I've been involved with startups, they can be all consuming, and our health may not be a priority, and you may not have a lot of energy to devote to it, but anybody can put cinnamon in their coffee. I mean, can add rosemary to store-bought salad dressing. I mean, I don't care. There's so many easy ways to implement the herbs and spices that I really, I have 2 books now. This is my second book about herbs and spices, so that's how passionate I am. But it's also because it's just such a simple, actionable thing that I think people can do. Whoever you are, whatever your budget is, whatever stage of life you're in, everybody should be eating more herbs and spices.
Well, I love that. And now I get the spice up, live long, because you're talking about adding the spices. I love that. Um, one of the interesting things about you is there's not many doctors in the country that are internists, but have a vast knowledge of nutrition. And so that's really a unique and amazing combination that you bring to the table. Your focus on that nutrition, but your background in being an internist. I see what a great combination that is, because you really understand both. And that's a rarity. I also think I love your message about being practical, because most of the diets, like you said, are not practical. So I think people tuning into Practically Healthy is going to be such a great podcast for people to be able to follow, because most of these diets are not practical, like you said. And because I'm speaking mostly to female entrepreneurs, I think we can agree that having people feel energetic and
Mm-hmm.
happy and full of energy and clear thinking is so important to being a successful entrepreneur. So it is an important facet for us to talk about when we talk about empowering women, especially women entrepreneurs that need that energy and clarity. And so I hope that they will follow the podcast. It'll be coming out when?
It's coming out November 3rd officially. So I'm
Great.
very,
Around the
very
same time
excited.
that we launch this.
Oh,
Perfect.
that'll be perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So
Great.
they can just switch over after this. They can listen to this, and
Yeah.
yeah, but no, and I really do think as women too, we put ourselves second, third, fourth. Our health is so far down on the list. Work, if we're working, which people listening to this, probably are. The business, the family, everything comes first, and we are such a distant, third, fourth, fifth. Who knows if you're caring for aging parents? So, and health in your midlife, even if you're not concerned about diabetes or whatever right now, health in your midlife can profoundly affect health in your later life. I mean, so you're setting yourself up. I mean, for younger women, they may not be thinking about, Alzheimer's or cancer, but they should be, because they're laying the foundation, not in a fearful way, in a prevention way. So I think it's very powerful, and definitely for business women, I have a lot of my patients are super high powered, very successful women, and they wait to put themselves first. So I think it's important to change that. But I think the idea of doing it in a practical way, where you don't have to turn your life upside down and invest a lot of emotional or physical or brain energy into being healthy. If I can just seamlessly integrate it into your life, it's a win-win, because you're going to feel better, you're going to look better, you're going to perform better, and you're going to be healthier, both short-term and long-term.
I love that. And you have a practice here in Los Angeles, right? So people could come
Yes.
see you in person, or they can reach out to you on the website if they're not here locally. Um, I also want to mention, I always love to have on successful business entrepreneurial women like yourself that are giving back and paying it forward. And so I'd like to mention that you are one of our She Angel members of the She Angels Foundation that gives grants to female-founded nonprofits that are helping women. In fact, you brought us to one of our first grants, which was Hope Gardens, because you not only teach a class there to women that are homeless and their children, which I think is just a beautiful gesture that you do that. But also, you turned on our She Angels Foundation to giving them a grant so they could build a garden to grow healthy food. And so I really applaud you for that, and so glad that we worked on that together. I know there was a news clip about this very venture.
Yeah, that was extraordinary, and to see the joy on these women's faces and the children as they were planting the garden. Like there was a 12-year-old girl helping us with the planting, and when she saw that we were planting strawberries, she was so excited and was like, oh my, and the women they promised they would invite me back for their first homemade meal with all the produce. So I thank She Angels, for their generosity and for everything that you guys do. It's been a wonderful experience to be part of that organization. And I've always, ever since I was young, I've believed in giving beyond my means and giving back. When I was younger, it was just time that I could give, but I still think that matters. And I've tried. I don't think that health should be a privilege. So a lot of my nonprofit work is geared towards, I don't think that health or wealth, by the way, or entrepreneurship should be a privilege. So, mentoring young women, I set up a scholarship for a low income minority woman to go to university, to be the first in her family to study math or science. I think, teaching young girls who don't have the opportunities necessarily to dream big, to beyond just their schema. So that I helped found a healthy food pantry in San Francisco. There's food deserts all over the country, which are tragic to me, because even if a family has the desire to eat more healthfully, they may not have access. If you have to take 3 buses to get fresh produce, that is really not going to happen for the average person. So
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I think it's important for entrepreneurs to be. I think there's a new, obviously successful entrepreneurs. There's a new trend where they're starting from the beginning with a nonprofit angle. Companies like Tom's and the eyeglass company, and that's what I believe. So actually, a percentage of every book that I sell. My last book, I donated 100% of the profits to an organization called Action Against Hunger, which helps support childhood malnutrition globally. And this book, I'm bringing it back stateside, and a percentage of every book sold goes to an organization called No Kid Hungry, fighting childhood malnutrition. So I think this has been a very important part of who I am and what defines me and what drives me. And I think it only makes you better as an entrepreneur and a human being if you take that on. Even it's not just about writing a big check. There's so much more, as you guys do with the She Angel grants. They're not huge checks, but they're game changers. And even just the support and encouragement and maybe even a little bit of advice, I think that's where it's at. And that's what I'm also equally passionate about, that too.
Well, thank you. And I want people to understand that our She Angels Foundation consists of outstanding women like yourself as members, and anyone can become a member. The membership is tax deductible and goes 100% to our grants that go to female founded nonprofits that are helping women. So we are so grateful to have you as a member, and we hope our other listeners will join as well at sheangelsfoundation.org. Let's tell people how they can find you. And before we do that, I did want to mention that you are a spokesperson for the BLK water, which I just saw at Whole Foods the other day. I'm
Oh,
like,
great.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a really great, it's a really, just briefly about, it is a wonderful and, I'm very careful with my affiliations and what companies I'm involved with. And I don't do very much anymore, just because
Mhm.
the science is the most important thing to me. And I don't want to be promoting, cereal with added sugar, something like that. So, but this brand came to me back in February, and they have an ingredient called fulvic acid in it, which is one of nature's most extraordinary ingredients. It's actually produced over thousands of years in sedimentary rock, and then it's mined and put into the water. So it has all these naturally occurring electrolytes, antioxidants, trace minerals. And in a world where we have so much artificial color, sweetener, flavor, this is a company that I really felt like I could get behind and help facilitate, not only as a spokes doctor, which is the least interesting to me, but the research. And also, I've really been pushing them on the philanthropy as well, which is wonderful. We're just sponsoring, this is the coolest thing, this 5,000-mile ride across the country by two women on Mustangs to raise awareness for the fact that so many wild horses are held in captivity in these pens all over the country. And so BLK is going to be sponsoring this ride across the country with these two extraordinary women. You might want to have them on your podcast too, because it's so cool. I mean, they're literally two women, five horses, spending 13 months riding across the entire country. So it's very cool to be able to work with brands that I can push towards not only science, but also philanthropy. It's another way of me kind of giving back on a much larger scale, but it's a lot of fun and it's exciting.
Yeah. And it's, I think the bottle's behind you, actually. I see it
Yeah. No, I have this is the good
BLK,
one.
they can find it in the stores. Follow that journey. Thank you for sharing that with us. I didn't know about that. That's amazing. Yeah, it is so refreshing that there's so many more socially conscious businesses nowadays. And I'm excited about that as well. Like everybody should be giving back to some cause that's really important to them. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I want people to follow you. How can they find you on social media?
I'm trying to get more active on social media. It's still kind of new to me too, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Dr. Melina, DrMelina. The podcast coming out, it'll be everywhere podcasts are available, Practically Healthy by Dr. Melina. And my website is just drmelina.com. And I'm trying to get better about posting stuff there. But if you to follow my appearances and stuff, and also just for general information, I'm really trying to work hard to get better information out there, again, that is practical and realistic, and I want to give you the knowledge, but also the tools to implement that knowledge.
Great. So please follow drmelina.com and also on social media, as well as picking up that book, Spice Up, Live Long. We all want that. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to invest in her, invest in another woman this week if you can, whether it's for nonprofit or for profit, but we have to stand behind each other if we're ever going to level the playing field. Dr. Molina, thanks for sharing your knowledge and your enthusiasm about health and wellness, which is so important to all of us thriving and living a happy life. Thank you again, everybody. Make it a great day.
Our theme music was created and produced by Lindsay Tomasic.